Hello everyone, it's Karen here from Stampin' with Karen Spreckley, and I'm back. It's Monday again and I'm back with another video for you. Today's video is going to be sharing a card technique. I think it's called like a window card, something along those lines, where we use acetate in the card to create a window so we can see the inside. Now this example I've used one of our in colours, Purple Posy, but for today's card I'm going to use another one of our in colours, and that is the lovely Pretty Peacock. To make this card I'm using the Perfectly Plaid bundle. So this is a stamp set and punch bundle. It's a photopolymer stamp set and it's available from our autumn winter catalogue. As usual, all of the products are available to order from Stampin' Up through me. All of the descriptions are in the description bar below, and you'll also find links there to my blog and Facebook and all those other various social media bits and pieces. So let's get started. So today I've also got the pleasure of using the new trimmer from Stampin' Up because as a demonstrator I was able to pre-order it and it came earlier this week. So that's really good because we're going to need it to use this card. So I'll just put the stamps and punch to one side for now. So in order to make this card, we need a standard card base. So I've got half a sheet of Pretty Peacock cardstock, which I've cut in half and scored in half. And I've done it in sort of a tent fold today because that's going to be the best orientation for us to make this card. I'm also going to need some pretty paper. So what I've got here is I've got our 6x6 papers that go with this particular set of in colours. So we've got the Purple Posy, which I've used before, and there are different designs. You've got either the gingham on one. I won't show you actually on the Purple Posy because it probably doesn't translate very well on camera. Let me show you with the Pretty Peacocks. It's a lovely rich dark colour and I'm sure you'll be able to see that a lot better. So you get this kind of, I don't know, almost like a Moroccan pattern, I suppose. Then on the other side you've got a lovely script, and then you've got this crisscrossy, I don't know what sort of pattern that is, diamond pattern, that's what it's called. And then we've got the lovely gingham on the other side, and I think I'm going to use the gingham again, so I'll keep that to one side. So we've got the Seaside Spray, the terracotta tile, we've got the Purple Posy, we've got the Pretty Peacock, and somewhere hiding, there it is, we also have some Rococo Rose. So these 6x6 papers are available in colour families, and we have them for all of our colour families. So both sets of in colours, we have them for the neutrals, the brights, the regals and the subtles. So something else I'm going to need for this card is a piece of window sheet, and this one's managed, I've got something on this one. I think it's just, let me get a little cloth. I think it was just a little bit of adhesive. That's better. Let's make that all shiny again. So I've got a piece of our window sheet. This is actually sold in 12x12 sheets, and it's a really good sturdy weight. You can make decent boxes with this as well. I've got a piece of our glimmer paper in the sparkle. Beautiful kind of Aurora Borealis kind of sparkle going on with this one, and we've got that to cut a little bit of a tree out of, and then I've got some various bits of scraps of card over here as well. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my lovely new Stampin' Up trimmer. So this has got a cutting blade and a scoring blade. I'm afraid we don't know yet when this is going to be available for customers, but I must admit as a demonstrator I'm very impressed with it, and the blades seem to be lasting really well. They're much deeper set than the blades on our old trimmer, so I think this is going to serve us really well. So if you're interested in purchasing one of these, please do let me know, and then I can make sure that I email you personally and let you know when they will be available for customers. But also keep an eye out on my social media because I will be letting everybody know in due course. So chat. The first thing I'm going to do is from one edge of this cardstock I'm going to trim off 1.5 inches, which is about 4.8 centimetres. So lovely clean cut, awesome. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to ensure that I've got 1.5 inches left at the top also. So I'm going to line that score line up with 1.5 inches and then slide it up. And then I'm going to take away this midsection here. So that piece is actually now surplus to requirements, so I'll pop that to one side. So now what I've got is I've got a card base. If I just pop a bit of white underneath, might make it a little bit easier for you to see. So I've got the back of the card, I've got a flap at the top, I've got a flap at the bottom, and then I've got this space in between, which we're going to fill with window sheet so that we can see all the way through to the inside of the card. So window sheet time. Now the trimmer also trims beautifully through this thick window sheet, no problem at all. So I need this to be a full width of the card. So that needs to be 14.9 centimetres or 5 7/8 of an inch. So I just need to trim just a little bit off there. So that went through like a hot knife through butter. Really no problems there at all. It's fantastic. And then on this side, I'm going to turn it around, and the full height of a card is 10.5 centimetres, but I'm going to trim this down to 10 centimetres. And again, hot knife through butter, no problem with that at all. So that's my acetate piece. Now the next thing, final piece of cutting, is I actually want to trim down some of our designer series paper to decorate the top and bottom flaps of our card. So what I want to do is I want to trim it down so it's very slightly narrower, because I want a little border all the way round. So I'm going to trim that down to 14.4 centimetres. So that means that we should now have a little border left and right. There we go. And so those pieces were 1.5 inches, so I want to go about 1/4 inch shorter than that. And I do apologise for all my mixed measurements, but I think I was born in 1972, and I think I'm a bit of a hybrid when it comes to measurements. I work in both metric and imperial, and I just flip between the two, whichever suits me best. So I do apologise for that. But the nice thing is, certainly with the Stampin' Up trimmer, new and old, you get metric and imperial on there, so it's nice and easy to follow. So I'm going to trim that down to and 1.25 inches, and I want 2 of those pieces because I've got the top piece and the bottom piece. So to do 1.25 inches, I can go to the left or to the right, because the right hand side of the trimmer actually goes all the way up to 1.5 inches, and actually sometimes it's slightly easier to go on this right hand side when you're measuring small pieces. So there we go. I've now got my 2 pieces of designer series paper that are going to mount quite nicely on my card. So I think we'll stick those down now. So I'm going to stick those down with some liquid glue. Liquid glue does tend to be my favourite because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So if you haven't got something quite lined up, it gives you the opportunity to correct any issues. So I'm just going to lay that down and ensure that that's on there nice and firmly, and also add some glue to this bit, and this is the one that's going to go on the bit that's still attached to the card. This is a nice little card design, this one. I've used it with other stamp sets in the past, so if you've got something that die cuts out, or in this case punches out, you could perhaps give this card style a try. It's just something a little bit different than having a full solid front to your card. So there we go. I've now got a piece for the bottom and a piece for the top. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to line up my insert where I want it to be. I'm going to fold that down, and then with a pencil I'm just going to faintly mark a line, because I know I need my sentiment to come just below that. And I can also add my bottom piece in, and I could also lightly draw a pencil line there. So I now know that I need my sentiment to be stamped between those 2 lines. Okay, so let's get on and do our stamping now, and then we'll do the final part of construction of the card. So what I want is, I want 3 Christmas trees to go on this card, like I did with the purple posy one. I've got 1 in the lovely sparkle glimmer paper. I've got one in solid coloured cardstock, and then I've also got one that I've stamped. So I'm going to do the same design in the peacock, the pretty peacock. There's really no need to reinvent the wheel. If you've got something, you know, you found something that works, then try it out in lots of different colours. That's generally what I try, to be honest, especially with Christmas cards, because we all need to make quite a few of those. So we've got quite a few stamps in here. We've got, I'm just trying to get it so the light's not on it for you. I hope you can see that nicely now. We have got this lovely plaid one. Little tip with that one, and also this sort of photo reel one, is ensure that your ink is not too heavy, because if it is, you'll lose some of that lovely detail. We've got a couple of pine cones, a sort of a more realistic one here and a nice little stylised one down here. We've got a stylised tree, and actually if you get everything lined up perfectly, those leaves do actually fit inside there, so you could have two different colours, and some really lovely sentiments. Hoping that your busy year comes together in Christmas cheer. North Pole delivery. Merry Christmas. May this season be wrapped in love and joy, and ho ho ho. If you'll notice that the photo reel one doesn't have a trunk like these two, but it does have a little separate trunk. So I'm going to go for the plaid tree. I've got a block just here for that. And I'm also going to go for the Merry Christmas sentiment. So I've also got a block for that here. So what I like to do with sentiments, it's nice to try and stamp them as straight as I can. I'll line them up on my grid paper, then I'll line my block up against my grid paper as well. Then I'll also line my cardstock up against my grid paper, and then hopefully I've got everything lovely and straight, and I can stamp it really well. So tap, tap, tap on your ink pad, and then we're going in between those lines with our Merry Christmas. There we go, beautiful. So that ink will dry really quickly. Then once that's dry, we can rub out those pencil lines. So the next thing I'm going to do is on a scrap of cardstock, I'm going to stamp the plaid tree. Now I'm just going to have a look and see how heavy this ink is. Oh no, actually that's stamped absolutely beautifully. Yeah, really, really happy with that. Okay, so that's it for our stamping for this card. So not too much, and I think I've just put my fingers in the ink. Yep, there we go. Good job, I've always got a rag on standby to help prevent too many accidents. Okay, so I'm now going to use the pine tree punch, which coordinates with this set, to punch out some Christmas trees. So what I tend to do with a punch where I need to line it up with a stamp is I tend to do it upside down, and then I manoeuvre my piece of cardstock, and then sometimes I just hold the punch just a little bit to hold it in place, and then when I'm ready, hands out the way, because you don't want a blood blister. Ask me how I know. And there we go, we've punched out a tree there. I also want a tree punched out of the sparkle glimmer paper, so being nice and frugal with my pretty paper, slide that tree up there and we'll punch that out. So we've got plenty of room there for some more. And I also want one out of solid pretty peacock cardstock, so I'm just going to stamp that one there. Okay, so this should be nice and dry now, so I shall just reach for an eraser and rub out those pencil lines. So those lines, remember, made sure that we've stamped our sentiment in the right place. So is everybody else started their Christmas crafting yet, or is it just us mad Stampin' Up demo types that are doing it? Yeah, probably just us, I guess. Okay, going to start to assemble the card now. I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to put the inside panel. So I'm just lining that up. So this inside panel, I always cut mine to 10 centimetres by 14.4 centimetres. So that's half a centimetre, or roughly 1/4 of an inch, shorter and narrower than a 1/4 of a sheet of cardstock. Okay, so that's lined up quite nicely. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to now stick this to the acetate and then stick the acetate inside the card. Now what I'm going to use for this is some tear and tape. So I'm going to put the tape down there, and then ensure that's down solidly. Oh, excuse me, just tipped my light over. Peel off the backings, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these up and sort of stand them up flat on my grid paper together to ensure that they're lined up and square. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to put tape on the inside of this flap. So I'm not going to go right to the crease though, because if you remember, I did cut that ever so slightly shorter than the card because it allows for a neater closure. So means there's not too much bulk at the crease down the centre there. So I'm just going to peel off the backing for the tape. Now again, the thing I find easiest when doing this is that I give that a tap like that. So that's I've got everything lined up along the bottom edge, okay, and then I close my top flap down over my window sheet, and there we have it. I've got my, you can see my hand through there and see the card through there. So that's that. And the next thing I need to do, or the final thing I need to do, is I need to add my Christmas trees. Now I want my plaid stamped Christmas tree to be at the front. I'm going to use a mini stamping dimensional right at the top there. And then I'm going to use a couple of, well, I've just got some scrappy bits off the edge of my dimensionals because don't waste any of it. That's going to go on the top. I'm going to use glue dots to stick these other two down because I don't want all messy adhesive to be around the back. So the glue dots come on a roll, and it's literally little dots of dry adhesive. So I'm going to put a glue dot in each tip of the tree, like so. Oh, didn't quite pick that one up. Okay, so I'm going to stick that one down. So I've got the there we go. So if we look from the inside, you can't see that adhesive there. You can see this adhesive here, and we can sort that out by cutting some additional strips of cardstock. The next one to go down is I'm going to put the sparkle glimmer paper tree onto the card front. There we go. Oh, sticky little dots. So I'm going to put this, going to try and line it up with the other one and put it sort of close over to that Merry Christmas. And then I'm going to take off the backings from the dimensionals, and then the stamped tree will have a little bit of elevation over the other two. Okay, so just for neatness then, let's sort out the inside, because obviously we can see the adhesive and everything here. So what I need to cut is I need to cut 2 1.5 inch thick strips, and then I also need to cut some extra trees. So I'll do that now. So back in with my lovely trimmer. I've got this scrap piece of cardstock that I had here. So I know I need this to be the full width of my card. So that's 15.9 centimetres, and luckily I was able to fit that in. And then I also need this to be, I need 2 strips of 1.5 inches, and 1.5 inches goes all the way to this edge of the trimmer. So I can go, that's one piece for me, and just do one more. Oh, went a little bit wonky there. There we go. And there's our second piece. Just get that piece of scrap out of the way. Okay, so again, I shall add some tear and tape to the back of these. I think I like to do a wet adhesive when sticking to a slick surface like window sheet, because a liquid adhesive takes such a long time to dry, whereas a dry adhesive like tape is instant. Okay, so we shall take off those backings. So this can be the hardest bit sometimes, getting the backing off. If you make sure it's really firmly stuck down, then it should peel up without too many issues. There we go, that's not too bad at all. So I'm going to take the inside of my card now, and we're going to make that look a little bit neater. So we've got this piece here which lines up just about there, and then we've got this piece here which lines up at the bottom. So this also adds a little extra bit of stability to our card. So I'm just going to get my bone folder and reinforce that crease down there. So that's now given quite a bit more stability to the card, and also it's covered up our workings, if you like, on the inside. Now, in terms of the covering up the adhesive on the trees, what we can do is we can use our punch and we can punch some additional trees. So you can punch them in whatever you like. I think I'll just punch them in white. So I want to get, I need 3. I'm not going to get another one out of that piece, but I think I can get myself another one out of that piece. So then what we need to do is we're going to basically stick those over the inside there. So we'll add some more glue dots. So back in with my trusty glue dots. So the card itself was relatively quick to make. It's just these finishing touches which really make it look more handmade than homemade, if you get what I mean. So we can just pop these on, and then, you know, it means the person that you're giving this to, they're getting a really good quality handmade card from you. It's professionally finished, it's all hand finished, all of the mucky workings are covered up, and it's a really, really lovely job. So finally I'm just going to pop that third Christmas tree on there. So there we go. So that's our finished card for today. So we've got, I'll just open it up there so you can see it. We've got a lovely window card made using... I'm doing some video, doing a little video of you doing it instead. Well, hey. Pretty peacock. And then I've also got one in Purple Posy. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for those of you that subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. One day when I perhaps find a little bit more time in my my busy working week, I might be able to squeeze an extra video in here or there, but for now, thank you for bearing with me for the Monday ones, and thank you for all your lovely comments and likes. It's really appreciated. Until next week, thank you. Bye bye.